Single mother saves a baby left in the cold. She never expected what came after. She was already late for her night shift when she heard the sound soft, broken, like wind catching on a whimper. It came from behind the dumpster near the back of the convenience store, wrapped in the silence of snow and sorrow. Cassie Rivera froze. She'd walked this alley 100 times in the past 2 years, always cautious, always quick. But this night, her worn-out sneakers hesitated on the iced pavement. That cry wasn't a cat or a raccoon. It was unmistakable. It was human. And small. She turned slowly, her hand tightening on her bag strap as she moved closer. The shadows around the dumpster were thick, but there was a shape there, something wrapped in what looked like a blanket. The cry came again, higher this time, desperate. Cassie dropped to her knees. Her fingers, numbed from the winter wind, fumbled with the corner of the thin pink fabric. What she found made her heart twist violently in her chest. A baby. A real baby. Red-faced from cold, lips trembling, no older than a few days. She looked around, panic rising in her throat. Who would do this? Who would leave a child out here to freeze to death? She didn't think. She scooped the baby into her arms and held it against her chest, pressing it into her coat, using her own body to share whatever warmth she could. And then she ran. Not away. Toward something. Somewhere safe. Inside the 24-hour diner where her best friend Angela worked the graveyard shift, Cassie slammed through the door, snow in her hair, breath ragged. Angela looked up from behind the counter, startled. Cassie? What? It's a baby. Cassie gasped. I found her behind the store. Someone just left her out there. Angela dropped the coffee pot, hot liquid splattering across the tile floor, but neither of them noticed. She rushed around the counter, taking in the bundle in Cassie's arms. Oh my God. She's freezing. Cassie, what are we gonna do? I don't know. I didn't think. I just grabbed her. I couldn't leave her there. They rushed to the back, where Angela kept her space heater. The baby's cries had softened, more like weak protests now. Cassie peeled off her coat and rocked the infant gently, her mind racing. We need to call someone, Angela said, reaching for her phone. The police, CPS. No. Cassie said suddenly, louder than she meant. Angela froze. No. Cassie's eyes burned. You know what'll happen. She'll get thrown into the system. Passed around. Forgotten. I know what that's like. Angela's voice softened. Cass, you can't keep her. Cassie looked down at the baby, her thumb gently brushing a tear from the child's cheek. Why not? The next few hours blurred. The police came after Angela made the call behind her back. Cassie was angry at first, but deep down she knew it was the right thing. A missing baby couldn't just disappear. She stayed with the child through the questions, held her as paramedics checked her vitals, answered everything truthfully. She'd found the baby behind the dumpster. No note, no sign of anyone else. They told her she might be called as a witness if the parents were found. They told her the baby would be taken to the hospital, then to a temporary home. Cassie didn't cry until they took the child from her arms. And even then, she stood strong. Because that's what single mothers did. But something inside her had shifted. She went to work that night like nothing had happened. Stocked shelves. Smiled at customers. But when she got home to the tiny one-bedroom apartment she shared with her 6-year-old son Nico, she lay awake staring at the ceiling for hours, thinking about the baby's face. And the way it had felt holding her. 2 weeks later, the doorbell rang. Cassie opened the door and found a man in a tailored coat standing on the porch. He looked out of place in this part of town, too clean, too composed. Miss Rivera? Yes. I'm Detective Sam Keller. May I come in? Her heart skipped. Is this about the baby? Yes, he nodded. May I? She stepped aside. He walked in, scanning the small living room. Photos of Nico covered the fridge. Toys were piled in the corner. We've made some progress, he said as he Saturday. We ran DNA from the baby. Matched it with an open case, a missing woman named Emily Brandt. Cassie frowned. The baby's mother? Yes. She vanished 6 days before you found the child. Cassie sat slowly. So she's dead. Presumed, but not confirmed. Her car was found abandoned, and there were signs of struggle. We believe the baby was taken and left deliberately, possibly by someone close to Emily. A chill ran through Cassie. Why are you telling me this? Because something strange happened. He pulled a folded piece of paper from his coat. We received this anonymously at the precinct yesterday. He handed it to her. The note was short. To the woman who saved her, thank you. You were meant to find her. Keep her safe. She's yours now. There was no name. No signature. Cassie looked up, confused. What does this mean? Detective Keller's face was unreadable. That's what we're trying to figure out. Days passed. Then a letter came in the mail. No return address. Inside was a birth certificate. A baby girl named Lily Brandt. And a document. A custody paper unofficial, but notarized. Signed by Emily Brandt. I leave full guardianship of my daughter Lily Brandt to Cassandra Rivera in the event of my death. Cassie's hands trembled as she read. Why her? How could this woman, someone she never knew, choose her? And then the memory came. 7 years ago. A shelter in Milwaukee. Cassie had been pregnant, scared, alone. A young volunteer named Emily had sat beside her night after night, offering blankets and hope. You're stronger than you think, she used to say. Cassie remembered. The voice. The kindness. The hope. It was her. Emily Brandt. Now, with the past colliding with the present, Cassie stood in her kitchen, holding the birth certificate like a flame in the dark. And for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel powerless. She felt chosen. And somewhere beyond the snow-covered city streets, someone was watching. Someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Cassie stood in the silence of her kitchen long after the detective left, the papers trembling in her hands. Her fingers kept brushing over the name written in elegant cursive, Lily Brandt. It didn't feel real. Her son Nico peeked around the corner, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Mom? Why are you up? She quickly wiped her face and smiled. Just had some papers to read. Go back to bed, honey. He walked up and wrapped his arms around her waist, his face pressing against her side. Is it about the baby you saved? Cassie stiffened, surprised. How did you know about that? You told Miss Angela, and she told Mrs. Lopez, and she told Marcus's mom. Everyone knows. They said you're a hero. Cassie sighed softly, resting her hand on his head. I'm no hero, baby. I just did what anyone would do. Nico looked up at her, serious in the way only kids could be. No, not everyone would stop. You did. Those words stayed with her long after Nico went back to sleep. The next day, she went to work like nothing had changed, but everything had. As she scanned barcodes and bagged groceries, her mind wandered. What did it mean to be chosen? What kind of mother had the foresight to leave a stranger in charge of her child, and why Cassie, of all people? And where was Emily now? That night, as she tucked Nico in, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Hello. Static. Then a voice, low, shaken. Cassie. She nearly dropped the phone. Who is this? A pause. It's me. Emily. Cassie's breath caught. You're alive? Yes. Barely. Where are you? What happened? I don't have long, Emily said quickly. They think I'm dead. I need you to keep Lily safe. Promise me. Emily, please tell me where you are. Let me help. But the line had gone dead. The next morning, Cassie couldn't stop shaking. She told the detective about the call, and they traced it, but it had come from a burner phone near a highway 2 towns over. He looked concerned. If she's alive, then someone's trying to silence her. This may be bigger than we thought. Cassie wasn't sure what bigger meant. All she knew was that someone had left a baby in the cold to die, and now that someone wanted her to pretend it never happened. She couldn't do that. By the end of the week, Cassie received another letter. This one didn't come in the mail. It was slipped under her apartment door. Stop asking questions. Let the baby go. This is your only warning. There was no signature, no handwriting. Just typed letters on white paper. She stared at it, heart pounding. The shadows outside her windows suddenly felt darker, closer. But something hardened inside her. She folded the letter in half and set it beside the others. Then she picked up her phone and made a decision. Angela was waiting at the diner, arms crossed, eyebrows raised. Cass, are you sure about this? No, Cassie admitted. But I can't walk away. Angela sighed. I always knew you'd be the kind of mom who'd charge into danger with a baby in one arm and a frying pan in the other. Cassie smiled despite herself. You got a frying pan? Angela disappeared into the back and returned with one. Just in case. Cassie took 2 days off work unpaid, of course. She drove to the shelter where she had once met Emily. It was still there, dingy, faded paint peeling from the bricks. But the same woman ran the desk. I'm looking for someone, Cassie said, showing her the picture Detective Keller had given her of Emily. She used to volunteer here. The woman squinted. Oh yes, Emily. She was sweet. Left about a year ago. Said she was moving to start a new job. Haven't heard from her since. Cassie pressed. Did she leave a forwarding address? No, sorry. But she was close to one of the other girls who used to stay here. Maria, I think. They talked all the time. Cassie's eyes lit up. Do you know where I can find Maria? She comes by sometimes. Leaves notes for Emily, hoping she'll come back. The woman reached under the counter and pulled out a shoebox of old scraps. On one of them was an address, scrawled in faded blue ink. Cassie left a thank you and drove across the city. Maria lived in a rundown apartment near the edge of town. Her face was pale, her eyes wary when she opened the door. But when Cassie explained who she was, something in Maria's face softened. Emily talked about you, she said, motioning Cassie inside. Said you were brave. Said you reminded her of who she wanted to be. Cassie blinked back tears. She saved my life once. I just want to return the favor. Maria hesitated, then handed her a key. She has a safe house. Out by the lake. She made me promise not to tell anyone unless something bad happened. But I think something bad has. That night, Cassie drove out of the city with only the lake's moonlit shimmer to guide her. The cabin sat alone, buried in snow and silence. She used the key. Inside, it was quiet but not abandoned. A fire had been lit recently. There were signs of someone living there. Baby clothes folded neatly. A half-empty formula can. And in the back room, a map. Cassie stepped closer. Names were scribbled, crossed out. Arrows pointed to dates and places. At the center, Lily. And underneath, one word. Inheritance. Cassie froze. This wasn't just abandonment. This was something more. Emily hadn't run. She'd been hunted. And now, so was Cassie. Cassie stood frozen in the center of the dim cabin. The fire had long died out, and the cold had begun to creep in, but she didn't notice. Her eyes were locked on the words scribbled beneath the map, inheritance. What inheritance? She thought, her mind spinning. The map detailed towns across the state, some circled, some crossed out. Arrows connected places like a spider web. Notes were written beside some locations. Bank account closed, lawyer refused to speak, contact lost. And over one town name, underlined several times, the word father was written in capital letters. Cassie traced the red ink with her finger. What were you chasing, Emily? She whispered. Or, what was chasing you? Her phone buzzed. A message from Angela. Police came by the diner asking about you. Again, be careful. Cassie typed a quick reply, then reached into her coat to pull out the birth certificate. Lily Brandt. It suddenly carried more weight than she ever expected. She knew one thing for certain, now this child wasn't just abandoned. She was being hunted. And if Emily was right, then whoever wanted Lily gone hadn't stopped looking. Cassie had to protect her. She couldn't let the past repeat itself. By morning, she returned to the city. The cabin had offered no answers, only more questions. Back at the apartment, she knocked gently on Angela's door. Her friend opened it, rubbing her eyes, and still in her bathrobe. You look like you've seen a ghost, Angela muttered. And you smell like a fireplace. Cassie held up the birth certificate and custody papers. I need you to keep these safe. Angela blinked. Cassie, what is happening? Cassie stepped inside and closed the door behind her. I don't have time to explain everything. But I think Emily was being chased because of something to do with Lily's family money. Maybe. A legacy. And now, they know she left Lily with me. Angela stared, speechless. I think I'm being followed, Cassie added. I need to find out who's behind this. Do you even hear yourself? You're a grocery clerk, not some private investigator. I'm a mother, Cassie said firmly. And right now, I'm the only one standing between that baby and whatever the hell is coming after her. Angela let out a long breath, clearly torn between panic and admiration. You always were the stubborn one. Cassie started digging. She visited public records offices on her lunch breaks, searched online genealogy sites after Nico went to sleep, and followed every breadcrumb Emily had left behind on that map. One name came up over and over again, Vincent Brandt, Lily's grandfather. He was the founder of Brandt & Cole Investments, a powerful financial firm known more for controversy than charity. Articles about Vincent painted him as ruthless, manipulative, and obscenely wealthy. But the real story began to unfold when Cassie stumbled on an old blog post from a whistleblower. Vincent Brandt disowned his daughter Emily after she refused to give up her baby. Rumor has it the child threatened the line of inheritance, and Vincent was ready to make it all disappear. Cassie's blood ran cold. That's why Emily vanished. That's why Lily was left in the cold. Emily had been trying to save her baby from her own father. And now, Cassie had the baby. A knock at the door startled her. It was late. Nico had already gone to bed. Cassie moved cautiously, her heart racing. She peered through the peephole. Detective Keller. She opened it, but not all the way. What is it? He looked tense. We need to talk. Now's not a good time. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't urgent. She let him in, but her guard stayed up. Keller paced for a moment before speaking. There's been a development. One of our officers pulled surveillance from the alley where you found the baby. Cassie straightened. We found a man leaving something behind the dumpster. He wore a black coat, hood up, but when he turned, Keller handed her a still image. The man's face was partially visible, sharpened from enhancement. It wasn't just any man. It was Vincent Brandt. Cassie stared in disbelief. He left her there himself? That's what it looks like. But why? Why not just disappear her entirely? I think he wanted her found, just not by you. Cassie's head spun. You mean, someone else was supposed to pick her up? Keller nodded grimly. A handoff gone wrong. Suddenly, everything made horrible sense. Emily had planned a secret drop-off, probably someone she trusted. But Vincent intercepted it. When it went south, he dumped the baby like trash. And Cassie just happened to find her. That night, Cassie didn't sleep. Every creak in the building felt like a threat. She stood by Nico's bedroom door, watching her son sleep, feeling both terrified and grateful. She then opened her laptop and drafted a message. She didn't know if Emily was alive. She didn't know who else she could trust. But if Vincent Brandt wanted Lily badly enough to leave her to die, then Cassie had to bring him into the light. She hit send. The next morning, Cassie was trending. A local reporter she'd met during her investigation had run the story. Single mother saves abandoned baby. Billionaire grandfather tied to shocking attempt. Cassie's name was everywhere. She expected fear, but what she felt was power. For the first time, the spotlight wasn't on the Brandt's version of truth, it was on hers. She picked up the phone and called Keller. They know now? You need to protect me and my son. You just put a target on your back, he warned. Then maybe it's time they stop hunting from the shadows. Within hours, everything moved fast. Reporters crowded outside her building. Child services showed up. Cassie feared the worst, but instead, they asked if she would testify as a guardian witness. Her act of going public may have saved her custody of Lily for now. And then, a call came through the police line. A woman, claiming to be Emily. They traced it quickly and sent a squad car to the address she gave. She was there, weak, thin, bruised, but alive. Cassie rushed to the hospital when they confirmed it. When she entered the room, Emily looked up and cried. You kept her safe? She whispered, voice cracking. I tried, Cassie said, gripping her hand. I didn't do it alone. Emily tried to sit up. You have to finish this. Finish what? Vincent. He's planning to name a new heir, erase Lily completely. He's bribed officials, paid off judges. But I have documents. Real ones. Proof that she is his blood and rightful heir. Cassie stared at her. Then we'll fight. Together. Cassie never planned to be a hero. She was just a mother, doing what she had to do. But now she was something more. A protector, a truth teller, a woman who had survived everything thrown her way and still stood. The next battle was coming. Lawyers. Courts. Possibly worse. But Cassie had already won something more valuable. She had given Lily a chance to live. And now, she would fight to give her the future she deserved. The hospital was quiet when Cassie stepped out into the hallway, her hands trembling from everything Emily had just told her. Emily had survived by hiding in motels, church basements, and women's shelters, constantly on the move, terrified her father would find her again. She had trusted one persona woman from a shelter to take Lily and disappear with her. But somehow Vincent had found out and intercepted the plan. That's how the baby ended up behind the dumpster. Cassie hadn't been part of the plan. She was never meant to be involved. But she had been. And now, she was in too deep to walk away. She looked down at the folder Emily had given her. Inside were notarized documents, letters, DNA test results, a copy of Vincent Brandt's original, while stating that any legitimate heir of Emily's would inherit half his estate. Cassie understood then. This wasn't just about money. It was about control. About erasure. About legacy. Vincent had tried to erase his daughter from his life. When that failed, he tried to erase his granddaughter too. And Cassie had stopped him. Now it was time to end this for good. Back at her apartment, Cassie found the locks had been tampered with. The knob was slightly off-center. Scratches near the deadbolt. Her breath caught. She stepped inside slowly, gripping the pepper spray in her pocket. Everything looked normal, but a frame was tilted. Her coat was on the floor. They'd been inside. She rushed into Nico's room. Empty. Then her bedroom. Empty. Then the bathroom door opened, and Angela stepped out holding baby Lily in a towel. "Oh my God," Angela gasped. "Cass, where were you?" "I came to check on Lily and saw the door cracked open. You've been hiding in here with her." Cassie rushed forward, grabbing them both in a tight hug. "I'm sorry I had to see Emily. She's alive." Angela pulled back, stunned. Wait, what?" Cassie quickly explained everything. The documents. The inheritance. Vincent's motive. Emily's years on the run. Angela sat down, her mouth hanging open. So this billionaire tried to erase his daughter's child to protect his reputation and money? That's evil on a whole new level. "Yeah," Cassie muttered. "And now he knows we have proof." Angela's expression darkened. "So what do? We take him down. With everything we've got." The next day, Cassie met with Detective Keller and handed him the full file. "You're sure about this?" he asked. "I'm sure he'll do worse if we don't stop him." Keller nodded, flipping through the pages. "This is enough for a warrant. If we can verify some of these transactions and get a statement from Emily, we might finally have the leverage we need." Cassie leaned forward. "There's more. I want to go public again. On camera this time." Keller raised a brow. "That could be dangerous." "I don't care," Cassie said. "If I go quiet, he wins." By the end of the week, a local television station ran the exclusive. Single mother speaks out, exposes attempted cover-up by billionaire heir. The interview went viral within hours. Cassie's raw emotion, her simple truth, and her fearless call for justice touched millions. Overnight, she became a Symbol mother who risked everything to protect a child who wasn't even her own. Support poured in. Lawyers offered help pro bono. Advocacy groups rallied. Even celebrities posted hashtags demanding an investigation into Vincent Brandt's actions. The pressure mounted fast. And then, Vincent Brandt released a statement. It was cold, dismissive. "The young woman is clearly confused. My daughter Emily has a history of mental instability, and I deeply mourn her tragic choices. I have no knowledge of any child associated with her, and I categorically deny any accusations made by Ms. Rivera." Cassie wanted to scream. But Emily wasn't confused. She wasn't unstable. She was a mother who ran to save her child, and Cassie was living proof of that. A court date was set. Vincent's legal team moved quickly, attempting to take custody of Lily under claims of concern for her well-being. Their angle? That Cassie, a single mother working a minimum wage job, was unfit to care for a child of such importance. But Cassie was ready. With Keller's help, she presented a timeline of events, medical records from the night Lily was found, Emily's sworn statement, and evidence of Vincent's shell companies transferring hush money to various witnesses. Emily, still recovering, appeared in court briefly, her frail voice trembling as she identified her father and confirmed everything Cassie had said. The courtroom was silent when she ended with, "My father tried to bury my daughter in the cold. Cassie brought her back to life." But Vincent wasn't done fighting. On the day of the final custody hearing, Cassie's car was keyed. Her apartment windows were shattered. A threatening note was left under her windshield. "Walk away. Last chance." Angela begged her to back down. Keller offered temporary protection, but Cassie refused. "Let him come at me," she said, holding Lily close. "I won't run. Not now. Not ever." The hearing lasted 5 hours. Vincent's lawyers painted him as a philanthropist. They showed pictures of charity galas, donations, interviews of him holding other children. Cassie's side showed surveillance footage, documents, Emily's testimony, and finally Cassie's own voice. She took the stand with trembling hands, looked at the judge, and said, "I'm not rich. I'm not perfect. But I'm a mother. I know what it means to fight for a child. And I promise no one will fight harder for Lily than me." The ruling came 3 days later. Cassie Rivera awarded full temporary guardianship of Lily Brandt. Custody subject to review pending further criminal investigations into Vincent Brandt. The courtroom erupted. Angela cried. Keller smiled. Cassie sat still for a moment, stunned, Lily sleeping in her arms. Then she cried too. Outside, cameras waited. But this time, Cassie didn't flinch. She held Lily tightly, stepped up to the microphones, and said, "This child wasn't born into power or protection. She was born into danger. But she survived. And so did her mother. I'm not the hero. Emily is. And Lily is our miracle." Back home, that night felt different. Nico crawled into bed beside her and whispered, "Are we safe now, Mom?" Cassie looked around the small apartment. The broken window had been taped over. A neighbor's cat meowed from the hallway. Somewhere far off, a siren echoed. But inside, all was quiet. She smiled and kissed Nico's forehead. "Yeah," she whispered. "We're safe now." But as the moon rose above the city, in a high-rise office with tinted glass, Vincent Brandt sat in the dark, holding a copy of the custody ruling. He wasn't smiling. He picked up his phone, pressed a number, and said one word: "Proceed." Cassie didn't sleep that night, even with the ruling in her favor. Something in the way the judge delivered the decision hesitant, almost regretful left her uneasy. But more than that, it was the way Vincent had looked at her in court. He hadn't flinched, hadn't argued, hadn't even looked angry. He looked like a man biding his time. And that scared her more than anything else. Angela stayed the night, keeping a bat by the door. Detective Keller had arranged for a squad car to circle the block every couple of hours, but Cassie knew better than to trust in temporary patrols. People like Vincent didn't act in the open. They had other ways. She sat at the kitchen table with the documents Emily had given her, poring through every page again, searching for something anything they might have missed. And there, buried in the back of the file, was a sealed envelope. She hadn't noticed it before. Her name was scrawled on the front in Emily's handwriting. Cassie opened it slowly. Inside was a letter. Short. Handwritten. "Cassie, if you're reading this, it means you made it this far. I hope I'm alive to thank you, but if not, know this. I chose you because you're stronger than me. I could carry Lily inside me, but I couldn't carry her out of the storm. You did that. You saved my daughter. I will never be able to repay that debt, but I can give you one more piece of the truth. My father is dying. Pancreatic cancer. He only found out recently. That's why he's desperate. He wants to erase me before the public ever knows I existed. And Lilith's the last piece of me that stands in the way of his perfect legacy. He'll stop at nothing. But you won't stop either. That's why I chose you. With everything I have, thank you. Emily." Cassie folded the letter with trembling hands. So that was it. Vincent Brandt was dying. And rather than spend his final days in redemption, he had chosen destruction. That made him more dangerous than ever. But Cassie had something he didn't. Time. 3 days later, the police raided 2 shell companies linked to Brandt and Cole investments. One accountant flipped and confessed to helping launder money for private security activities that included tracking Emily and attempting to bribe social workers. Detective Keller called Cassie. "He's slipping," Keller said. "You pushed him into a corner." Cassie didn't feel victorious. Not yet. Because even a dying man could burn the house down if he knew he wasn't walking out of it. Later that evening, while Nico colored on the floor and Lily babbled in her bassinet, Cassie sat on the couch and watched the news. A new segment had just aired. Emily Brandt speaks out. Hidden daughter of billionaire claims attempted murder. There was Emily, pale but fierce, speaking directly to the camera. "My father tried to silence me. I won't be silent anymore." It was raw, emotional, and devastating. And by morning, it was everywhere. Social media exploded. Public outrage boiled. Shareholders pulled out of Brandt and Cole. Vincent Brandt's empire began to crumble. That night, Cassie received an anonymous package at her door. Inside was a silver bracelet. The same one Emily used to wear. The one she said had belonged to her mother. Tied to it was a note. "He knows where you are." Cassie's heart pounded. She turned the apartment upside down, checking every window, every lock. Then she packed a bag. Angela drove her out of the city at dawn, Lily wrapped tight in blankets, Nico asleep in the back seat. They headed toward a safe house Keller arranged upstate in old ranger's cabin in a state park, off-grid and guarded by officers working the Brandt case. Angela stayed long enough to hug her tight and promised to keep the apartment under surveillance. Call me if anything happens, Cassie said. You'll know before I do, Angela replied grimly. The cabin was quiet. Snow fell gently through the trees. No traffic, no phones, no signals. Cassie stayed inside, tending to the kids, reading through every last scrap of evidence, and waiting for news. It came sooner than expected. Keller called through the satellite line. He's gone. Cassie froze. What? Vincent Brandt passed away last night. Cardiac arrest. Complications from his cancer. A strange stillness filled the room. Just like that it was over? Keller continued. The federal case will still move forward. His estate is being reviewed. But without him alive to pressure people, we have a good chance at pushing through full adoption paperwork. Cassie let out a long breath. Lily cooed from her blanket. Nico yawned and curled into his mother's lap. Cassie looked down at them, both of them. And finally, she allowed herself to feel something she hadn't in months. Peace. A week later, Cassie and the kids returned home. The media frenzy had died down. The apartment had been cleaned. The locks were changed. Emily was still recovering, but stable and safe, living under a protected identity far from the city. Cassie filed for legal adoption of Lily with Emily's written blessing. Keller dropped off the final packet himself. You're a hell of a woman, Cassie Rivera, he said. You changed everything. Cassie smiled. No, I just showed up when someone needed me. He nodded, then turned to leave. And that, he said, is the truest kind of hero there is. That night, as Nico slept in his bed and Lily snored softly in her crib, Cassie sat by the window with a mug of warm tea. Snow fell outside, quiet and soft. She thought of that night, the one that changed everything. The whimper behind the dumpster. The choice to stop. The impossible burden that became the greatest gift of her life. She looked out into the night and whispered, You're safe now, baby girl. And this time, she knew it was true. The sun was rising slowly behind the city skyline as Cassie Rivera stepped out onto her apartment balcony. It was quiet, the kind of rare stillness that only came after a long storm. The wind felt sharp against her skin, but she welcomed it. It reminded her she was still standing. She took a sip from her coffee, her gaze drifting down to the street below, where life was beginning again. Buses hissed to a stop. Kids with backpacks raced to catch them. A jogger in a neon vest crossed the intersection. It all looked so normal. For the first time in a long while, Cassie's life felt normal, too. Lily's adoption had been finalized just a week earlier. The paperwork had come in a plain white envelope, but Cassie had stared at the judge's signature as if it were written in gold. It was official now. Lily was hers not by blood, but by choice, by sacrifice, by love. And Emily had disappeared again, this time by design. A witness protection program relocated her under a new identity. Her voice had trembled with emotion on the phone when she said goodbye. You saved her, Cassie. I'll never forget that. But I can't be in her life, not yet. Not safely. I'll always be watching, though. And when the time comes, I'll be ready. Cassie hadn't cried during the trial, the threats, or even when Vincent Brandt died. But she cried during that phone call. Because letting go was sometimes harder than holding on. Life settled into a gentle rhythm. Cassie returned to her job at the grocery store, at least part-time. Her boss gave her shorter shifts to help her ease back into things, and the customers treated her like some kind of hometown hero. Nico adjusted surprisingly well to having a baby sister. He liked feeding her, reading to her, even singing lullabies he made up on the spot. Sometimes he'd lean over her crib and whisper, Don't worry, I've got you. Cassie would stand in the hallway and smile through quiet tears. Because once upon a time, no one had got her. But now, they had each other. It was a Thursday morning when she got the unexpected letter. It came in a cream-colored envelope with no return address, the kind you only saw in legal offices or weddings. Inside was a short note. Ms. Rivera, please attend the reading of the final will and testament of Vincent Brandt. While you are not named in the original document, a sealed addendum was found in his private safe following his death. Your presence is requested. Sincerely, Carter & Wells, LLP. Cassie's hands trembled. Why would Vincent leave her anything? Or even mention her at all? She debated ignoring it. But something inside her quiet, relentless pull told her she had to go. Not for the money. For the closure. The law firm sat in a marble high-rise downtown. A receptionist led her to a polished conference room. There were only a few people seated around the table. 2 lawyers, a notary, and an older man Cassie didn't recognize. The taller lawyer, Mr. Wells, stood and greeted her with a handshake. "Ms. Rivera, thank you for coming. Please sit." Cassie glanced around. "I thought there'd be more people." Wells nodded. Mr. Brandt had very few people he trusted, or liked, for that matter. He opened a thin folder and pulled out a letter sealed in wax. "This is the addendum he wrote by hand, dated 10 days before his death." Wells broke the seal and began to read aloud. "To Cassandra Rivera." Cassie's breath caught. "If you're hearing this, it means I am dead. And if justice has any sense of irony, it means you helped bring about the consequences I spent decades avoiding." The room was silent. "You were not supposed to be in this story. I had planned every move, covered every trace. But you walked into it like a ghost through locked doors. And you did what I couldn't. You protected the innocent. You reminded me, in my last days, what shame felt like. Not guilt shame. Because despite all my money, all my men, all my power, I couldn't stop you." Cassie blinked. Her throat tightened. "I was a tyrant. A coward. A man too addicted to control to love the daughter I created, or the granddaughter she fought to keep. I will never be able to undo what I've done. But I leave you this, Cassandra Rivera, not as a gift but a debt repaid." The lawyer looked up. "In accordance with the instructions in this letter, Mr. Brandt bequeaths the following to you and your legal ward, Lily Brandt." He handed her a paper. "A trust in the amount of $2.5 million to be managed solely for the care, education, and long-term support of Lily Brandt. You will have full oversight." Cassie's mouth fell open. She looked down at Lily in her arms, sleeping peacefully. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Wells said kindly. "Sometimes, the dead finally make peace the only way they know how." Cassie didn't change overnight. She didn't move into a mansion or quit her job. She stayed in the same neighborhood, but upgraded to a larger, warmer apartment with 2 bedrooms, a real crib, and space for Lily to crawl and grow. She enrolled Nico in a better school. She started an emergency fund for single mothers like herself. She gave quietly, without credit. And every evening, when she held Lily and Nico close, she whispered to herself, "We're safe. We're together. And we're enough." Months passed. Then a year. Lily turned 1. She took her first steps on a sunny afternoon in the park. Cassie was there to catch her, arms wide, laughing and crying all at once. Nico was there too, cheering like a proud older brother. They celebrated with chocolate cake and messy kisses and homemade crowns. It wasn't glamorous, but it was everything. And then, one ordinary day, a letter arrived. No name, just a return address from a small town upstate. Cassie opened it slowly, heart pounding. Inside was a single photograph. It showed a woman walking along a lakeside trail. Her back was to the camera, but Cassie knew that long brown hair, knew that walk, knew that courage. Emily. Beneath the photo, just one line. "Tell her I love her. I'll be home one day." Cassie pressed the photo to her heart, tears filling her eyes. She turned toward the kitchen, where Lily was sitting in her high chair, clapping along to a cartoon-themed song. Cassie smiled. She had faced a billionaire. She had faced the system. She had faced the darkness of what people could do when driven by fear, by greed, by shame. And she had emerged not just intact but full of light. Because in the end, this story wasn't about a man who wanted power. It was about a woman who chose love. The end.